Merger and acquisition is an important approach in semiconductor industry to gain market share and get access to critical resources. However, as Europe and US introduce policies that are skewed towards domestic buyers, how should Chinese companies deal with this extra scrutiny when they do M&A overseas?
Two issues and a solution. The two issues is shared issues between typically Europe and US or Chinese companies. It's extremely difficult for Chinese companies at the moment to make an acquisition in Europe, in US, in Japan in the same way. Super difficult. Each government are really looking at in depth, and the first answer is no, and then they're thinking after that. So it's difficult to make that kind of M&A activity at the moment. But it's an issue in Europe, in US, and in the different countries because startups, because companies that have reached a certain level, their investors want to go out. And a significant part in the last years of the M&A activities has been done by Chinese companies. So there is a lot of European companies or US companies that have difficulties to find an exit for their investors just because Chinese companies are not here to support such exit and to be able to acquire the companies and integrate them into the asset. So it's a shared issue because we are involved in such M&A activities in Europe and in US. There is a lack of buyers at the moment because of that. So yes, it's an issue for the Chinese companies, but it's becoming also an issue for the US companies if we're talking about Europe, because there is a decision from the European Commission and the national government that the different European nations need to keep such companies under European leadership, which means that Chinese companies cannot buy them, but means also that US companies cannot buy them because they need to stay on a European leadership. And since few months, there is this emergence of Europe first in terms of acquisition that is really, really impacting the M&A market. So it's bad for everybody, okay? Because at one point, companies, when they reach a certain level, when the investors are here since 5-10 years and they want to exit, you have to manage that. So it's becoming an issue. Here, the solution is that, well, you can do a lot of things with doing M&A. So collaboration, licensing, get access to technologies through a partnership is really something that is extremely active, extremely possible. Creating joint venture is something also where you have a lot of activity. So there is a lot of ways to stay under the rules that have been established by Europe and by US typically, and be able to get access to the right persons, the right companies, and so on. We are working with a Chinese investor at the moment in Europe to create a joint investment firm with European investors and Chinese investors in order to help grow the good companies. And it's welcome by the European governments because, well, it's super important. You need access. China is a huge market. China is a huge pool of smart companies, smart persons, and you need to get access to that. And it's just a matter of finding ways to create such melting pot, such collaboration. At the moment, the M&A are not possible, but there's other ways of collaboration.
When we talk about investment, usually it's about capex. But can you talk about how Chinese companies could attract more talents, which is really crucial in IC industry?
The policy of the Chinese companies to attract, key persons has been extremely high. The success is more to retain the persons, to keep them 5 years, 10 years in China in order to have this ability to work on the long run. And most of the persons from the statistic I've seen are staying in China 3 years, maybe 4 years, but not more than that. The key success of US has been to attract talent. The brain drain of US companies worldwide is very famous and is very effective. So it's a soft power that nobody talk about, but the US companies have been able to attract the key persons from Europe, India, China, Japan, Korea, and so on, in order to implement the development they were looking at and get the most smart brain from the world. And it's I think it's what China is trying to do. There is a diaspora of Chinese persons outside China that have come back in order to be able to support the Chinese industry. There is no lack of smart persons in China. There is maybe in terms of culture, more a lack of spending time on things in order to make them happen. And maybe it's the key difference between what we can see in Japan typically, that can really focus on, well, improving on a day-to-day basis and reaching a very high level of quality. And this is also what's happening in Europe and partially in US. So I don't think there is an issue of attracting talent. There's more an issue of maintaining them in China in order to be able to work with these key persons for the next 5 to 10 years.